Right. Right. Good morning, all of you. So today we are going to discuss about the another aspect of risk management. Right. So basically, we are starting to discuss about the risk management. We now have kind of a general understanding what you mean by the risk management and what sort of risk we are going to learn. So this is actually related to your assignment, right? So your assignment is basically based on ERA. ERA means enterprise, right? So in every annual report, Sri Lanka, PLC company, right? So they have to reveal the ERA, enterprise risk management plan, right? Because I have already told you, right? When it comes to the nowadays investor, right? So they are not only looking at the financial, right? They are looking at the non-financial things as well. So the financials, so what are they? Non-financials, we have open. Because when it comes to the investor, you know, right? Let's say I'm an investor, I'm looking at the profit and I'm designing what? My future income. I'm investing today to get futuristic income. So if I take that decision based on a historical values, like profit, you all know, let's say your year-end is December 31st. Your annual report will come in March or April. That is a kind of futuristic amount, right? So based on that, if you are taking a investment decision, right, to get an income in the future, right, sometimes that investment decision goes wrong, right? So therefore, people now more focused on the non-financial things like sustainability reporting or sustainability and risk management, corporate governance, and ethics. Because these things are very important to design your investment. අපි ගත්තොත් එනවා අපි ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ අද ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ කවද බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන ඉන්කම් එක අනාගතේ බලාපොරොත්තු. අනාගතේ ඉන්කම් එකේ කියලා බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා අද ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරනවා. ඒලා අපි ප්‍රොෆිට් එක දිහා බලලා ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරනවා. right ප්‍රොෆිට් එක කියන්නේ මොකද? මේ හිස්ටොරිකල් වැලියු. ප්‍රොෆිට් එක අද දකින්න කලින් තිබ්බ performance එකෙන් තමයි අද ප්‍රොෆිට් එක. දැන් අපි ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ අනාගතේ. ඒක අනාගතේ ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරන්නේ ඉස්සර මිනිස්සු ප්‍රොෆිට් එක දිහා බලලා ඉන්වෙස්ට් කරා. දැන් මේ මේක ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆෝම් වෙලා තියෙනවා non financial. මිනිස්සු බලනවා කොහොමද මේ කම්පැනි එකේ corporate governance structure. හරි විදිහට පාලනය. කොහොමද මේක ඇතුලේ ඉන්න managers වගේ ethics. ඒගොල්ලෝ හරි විදිහට මේක රූල් කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ බලනවා කම්පැනි එක කොහොමද ඉස්සරහා අනාගතයේදී ඒගොල්ලන්ට එන්න ඕන risk කොහොමද management. ඊට පස්සේ බලනවා කොහොමද කම්පැනි එක sustainability. There is no more company, so we can't get the income. So sustainability is very important. sustainability is very good. So therefore, nowadays the transformation is happened when it comes to reporting, right? We are reporting the non-financials than the financials. Right? So one aspect is the risk management, or we call it as enterprise risk management. And one aspect is the sustainability reporting. As you all know, there is new standards are coming up, IFRS S1 and S2, to report the sustainability. Because now the people are transforming. And also the people are not looking at the profit. They are looking at what? Value creation. How the companies step up from this point to next point. Value create. How we are going to create the value. Then not the people are investing. If you feel like this company is creating some sort of value, then I will invest. For that decisions, for that value creation decision, not only the profit, we need to know about the risk. We need to know about the corporate governance structure, right? Ethics and sustainability. So when it comes to the risk, right? We know, for example, let's say, as an investor, I know in future our company is performing very well. So let's say there's a particular company called company A. That company A is performing very well. Right? As an investor, so I'm looking at this company. This company is performing very well. So I'm going to invest in this company. But before that, I know there's a competitor also coming up because this company is earning so much of profit. Definitely the competition is there. Competitors are coming. What industry are very good profit for or not? Right? So I know the competition is coming up. That means competition risk is there. Right? So when I'm looking at the annual report, right, I'm focusing on that competition risk, competitive risk, which they have addressed. How they are going to manage it. If they are not addressing that competitive risk and if they are not providing any response for that risk, still it's making profit, but I'm not going to invest. Because my investment return will come in future, but my company is not looking at the future, even though it's performing well at this moment. So that is how the what we call the new investors are thinking. So if you are become a chartered accountant someday, right? I know all of you can become a chartered accountant. Right, good. So if you have become a chartered accountant someday, your role is transformed. Like now people are actually arguing that accountants have no more jobs. Right? All the things are automated. Right? And artificial intelligence take all the jobs. But that claim is very wrong because your job is actually transformed. Your job is transformed to the value creation. If you are creating value to the company, then you are still having the job. How you are create some value to the company? The traditional accountant, what traditional accountants are doing, they are only looking at the financials. They are preparing the financials. But now the accountant role has been changed as a value creator. How you are creating some value to the company. So that's why these subjects are very important, even though it's very boring. So you need to know the ethics, you need to know the corporate governance, how you need to handle your company. Like basically corporate governance, how you are going to control your company. Right? And how you are going to manage your risk. When there's a risk, what kind of a risk response you can have. Right? And how you are going to start paying your company for future period of time. Right? So therefore, this enterprise risk management, right? Most of the annual reports in Sri Lanka, in BSAA companies, the Colombo Stock Exchange, they are revealing this enterprise risk management plan. Enterprise risk management. So what is the enterprise? What do you mean by the enterprise? What is the difference between the business and the enterprise? Why we call it as enterprise risk management without calling it as business risk management? So the company's risk management. What's the difference? For the enterprise, business company. I call it as ER without calling it as ER. Yes. Right. So when it comes to the enterprise, the name enterprise, it's having a kind of a broader conception than the business. Business එකකෝ අපි කියන්නේ business එක ගන්න අපි buying and selling කරලා කියන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය operations business. But when it comes to enterprise, right, not only the operations, but all other aspects which is embedded to the enterprise. Like we need to have the HR, right? We need to have the finance, right? We need to have the IT, right? We need to have some sort of other aspects. Everything get together, we call it as enterprise. So when you are looking at the risk, not only the operations, but also every aspect of the company you need to look at. That's why we are calling it as right? Enterprise risk management. Right? Enterprise risk. Not only within the business, as well as we need to look at the external environment as well. When you analyze this. So when it comes to risk, it's a kind of a ongoing process. Right? So every time the risk is around us. The risk is nothing around the cover. Risk is nothing around. After the business sector under the risk. If you want to have a return, definitely you need to take the risk. That is a risk and return trade-off. Universal truth. Every time we have to face risk. And you are in our personal life also, you have to face risk, different risks. Right? So therefore, as a company, right, to survive in the business, to make profit, to become a best out of best, you need to manage your risk. Right? So therefore, we are going to discuss about this enterprise risk management, how the companies are going to build enterprise risk management. I'm not going to discuss about enterprise. So enterprise risk management is what? The holistic alignment and integration of risk management into the development and implementation of organizational strategy, so that it is embedded throughout the organizational culture and therefore becomes an integral part of organization activity, strategic, tactical, and operational. So that is the definition. So in your level, I'm not going to ask definition in your examination. Right? In your level, you are in the strategic level. That's why up to the strategic level, you are getting exemptions. Right? So you are in the strategic level, so we are not going to ask definitions in the strategic level. We are looking at strategic level papers in Sri Lanka, right? You are not asking what is the meaning of enterprise risk management. But you have to understand the concept. Right? What is the meaning of the risk management? So when it comes to risk management, there are important areas they are mentioning. Integration of risk management into development and implementation of organizational strategies. For example, when you are implementing, when you are deciding, we are going to follow this strategy in our business. Definitely, you need to look at the risk. For example, let's say you are going to start a new product. You are going to start a new product. So before starting that new product, definitely, or before implementing that new product, definitely you need to look at the risk. What kind of risk we are having if we are starting this for this product. So it's when you are designing a strategies like developing a new product or merge with another company, right? Acquisition of another company, that those are the strategic decisions in a company. Right? Strategic decisions or long-term decisions, we can say. So if you are taking such kind of a long-term decision, definitely we need to embed the risk management. Right? Then it has been integral part of organizational activities. In every aspect of organizational activities, right? In each level, in operational level, tactical level, and strategic level. Right? So you need to have the risk management. You need to manage risk. So when it comes to risk, we are saying that managing the risk. Why we are not saying it's eliminating the risk? So 100% eliminate, we can do that. And right, we can't. Right? So what we have to do is we need to manage to an acceptable level. If it is goes beyond that acceptable level, what will happen? You can't survive. Now, ඔගොල්ලෝ ගැන life එක ඔගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ හැමෝම risk manage කරනවා. අපි එළියේ ජීවත් වෙන risk manage කරගෙන. ඒක එතන එහාට ගියොත් තමයි ඔයාට acceptable level එකෙන් එහාට ගියොත් තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්න ඕන. Likewise, to survive in the market, right? Businesses need to look at the management in every aspect and in every level, right? So therefore, the risk management is very important, right? That is we call it as enterprise risk management. So why we need to have the enterprise risk management? Some benefits are there. Why? Yes. Start looking at the board, right? What are the benefits? Just think. I have the enterprise risk management board. I have to reveal the stakeholder. Why? Because the awareness is very important, right? Awareness is very important. Right? So when it comes to Sri Lanka, right? So we know we are highly corrupted country, highly corrupted. Because of that, we all are calling it as one of Asia. We are corrupted. Right? So to avoid this corruption, what we can do? We need to create some awareness about the fraud. Now, go to the Samani, and then Abe, Achinangian, Abe, Achayamakan, one in the Matyavargan Karan, there. So they don't have the awareness. Fraud awareness. Fraud awareness. I'm not saying that the person is doing the fraud, but they don't have the awareness, right? How much of money they are spending to build a highway, right? How much of money they have taken out, right? So you need to have some awareness, create some awareness. Very important, the fraud awareness. So likewise, when some of the risk also, right? You need to promote the awareness about the risk. Then only people know, this is a risk. When there's a risk is coming up, so you know, because you already aware. You know there's a competition is coming up in future, right? Once it comes, because you are already aware, right? You know how to tackle that. Right? So therefore, one important benefit is promote greater awareness of the scale and diversity of risk faced in the organization. Scale and timing. Right? කොච්චර ප්‍රමාණයකින්ද ඔයාලට risk ගන්නේ මොන diversity එකෙන්ද ඔයාලට risk ගන්නේ කියලා ඔයාලට awareness ගන්න. That is the one benefit. Significant improvement in risk identification and subsequent proactive risk management. So when it comes to risk management, one of the biggest risks is what? The correct risk you have not identified. That is the biggest. The risk is not identified correctly. That is the biggest risk you have. So therefore, when it comes to risk identification part, when you are going to identify the risk, this risk management framework or the risk management policy will help to improve the risk identification part. Risk එක අඳුනගන්න යද්දී අපි කලින් මේ risk management part එක කරලා තිබුණා අපිට ලේසි වෙනවා. අපිට අනාගතේ දෙන risk එක කලින් අඳුනගන්න. ලේසි අඳුනගන්න. Right? And we can take some proactive actions against this. So in 2021, if you can remember, we are at the kind of a pandemic, COVID-19, right? Coming up in March, I remember. From March, right? So actually, if you are having in your company, if you are having a good risk management policy, definitely that company should identify this risk as before coming to the company, because it's happening in China, right? As I remember, the first patient is identified in December, right? 2020, right? So if you are a risk manager in a company, so definitely you need to identify that risk to your company. So most of the manufacturing companies in Sri Lanka penalized with that in that field because of the COVID-19. So likewise, you need to have some that ability to identify the risk in future, and you need to make some proactive actions against that. Then only you can manage. Right? Again, ඒ කියනවා 30 ලෙවල් වල නැහැ. ඊට කලින් අපි වහනවා. ප්‍රොඇක්ටිව් ඇක්ෂන් එකක් ගන්නවා. Right. Ensure that the directors, managers, and employees are all aware of their risk responsibilities. So when it comes to risk management, right, especially in most of the companies nowadays, there's a person called compliance officer. Right? Compliance officer. Right? So compliance officer or the risk officer, right, is looking at the risk in a company. So most of the people or most of the employees in the organization think the risk responsibilities with that person, compliance officer or the risk officer, right? But when we are managing the risk, right? When you are managing the risk, that risk responsibility is with all the employees in the organization. So if you are a, let's say, finance executive in your organization, you are having the risk responsibility regarding the company. What are your responsibility of risk responsibility? Right? Company risk. So therefore, you need to know what is your risk responsibility. Right? For that, this ERM is very important. Improve the quality and robustness of decision due to comprehensive risk assessment. Right? So when it comes to when you are discussing about the risk management process, which we have discussed in last week, if you can remember, right? Under that, we are doing some risk assessment after the identification of the risk. Right? After identifying the risk, we are straight down to the risk, like high level, low level, middle level risk. We are categorized based on the assessment. Right? So because of that assessment, right, we can take some we can take some quality decisions. Because I know what is the high level risk. Make it high level risk. Make it low level. So that you address the normal areas. High level risk we have high level address. Provide reasonable assurance to the broad range of stakeholders, especially shareholders. This is one of the important areas that, as I mentioned you before, right? Provide reasonable assurance for the stakeholders, especially for the shareholders, for the investors. As I mentioned before, shareholders or the investors or the potential investors, right? They are looking at the CR and they are deciding their economic decision, whether they are going to buy shares or sell shares. So through the ERA, they are having what? Reasonable assurance. What do you mean by reasonable assurance? Reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance. When it comes to the auditing also, we have provided reasonable assurance. What do you mean by that? Reasonable. Not 100%. Very good. Yes. Not 100%. Yes. Limited assurance is equal to limited. It's a kind of a high level assurance, but not 100%. So we call it as not absolute assurance. We are not providing 100%. That in the risk management policy, right? We are not saying these are the 100% risk we are facing, but we are providing some high level of assurance, 80 to 90%, right, of assurance. Right. So then stakeholders are more comfortable regarding the company. So as I'm the investor in that company, right? I know there's a future risk is coming up, right? Once the Donald Trump has been implemented that tracking, right? Like called 10% or 20%, what do you call these tax, right? Right. So from that, it will implement. If it is implemented, it will create some risk to the Sri Lankan companies. So therefore, we need to identify that before it's coming to Sri Lanka. The futuristic risk, right? So you need to create some risk response, right? What we have to do if it is happened, right? So previously, now it goes down to I think 20%, right? Right. So then improve legal and regulatory and reporting requirements, right? So when it comes to the most of the PLC companies, according to the compliance regulations of CSC, right, Colombo Stock Exchange, right? So they need to provide some sort of risk management framework to their loan. That's a requirement. So it's a when you're having a ERM, it's satisfying the compliance requirements as well. Legal requirements as well. Right. So those are the few benefits why we need to have the enterprise risk management. Right? Enterprise risk management. Then next question is who is responsible for this risk management? Who is responsible? How the risk management is responsible? Or responsibility? So mainly we are having three people in organization who are responsible for this risk management. Right. The first one is the board of directors. As you know, the directors are making what decisions for the company? Yes, correct. Strategic decisions. Right. Directors are making strategic decisions. Right. So that's why in your final level of chartered exams, as well as in this paper, right? So I'm asking a question which is covering a kind of a holistic view, right? You need to have a helicopter view about your company. But the helicopter view, put in a company, and they number. Don't the man say company come on, the number got a view to be helicopter view. The number that bigger over and the area. So what they can decide to do. So you need to have the helicopter view. You need to think like a director or CEO, CFO, like a high manager person. So they are taking a strategic decision. Director. So therefore, when it comes to risk management, right, it's responsible for establishing comprehensive risk management governance structure. So they are not going to find out what are the risks, but they are providing. They are facilitating actually. Right. They are creating the governance structure for the risk management. They are proposing risk management committees, right? And deploying the sufficient financial and human resources. They are facilitating to have the risk management. Resources allocate करना, human resources allocate करना, financial salary और salary देना, आवश्यक governance structure का देना, risk management committee का करना. इनमें देवा तमाम directors नहीं देना, responsibility का risk management करना. Then when it comes to the chief risk officer, so there's a person called chief risk officer, or we call it as compliance officer as well, right? So according to the chief risk officer, he is actually looking at the risk of the companies. What are the risks that company is having, right? He's the main party who's looking at the company's risk, right? What kind of risk you are having? How it's impacted to your strategies, right? All these things, all the risk indicators, right? Legal and compliance sort of things. What are the legal and compliance we need to follow, right? All of the risk-related things are looking at by the chief risk officer, or we call it as compliance officer sometimes, right? So then we are having the audit committee, right? If you can remember, right? The audit committee is one of the subcommittee of the board. So mostly comprised of independent, non-executive director. I think Malin told you, right? Independent, non-executive director. The audit committee consists of independent non-executive directors, right? What they are looking at is they are overseeing the risk management process which are being developed by the chief risk officer, right? They will oversee the risk management process එක අද develop කරේ මේක okay the company right මොනවාගේ තව development points තියෙනවද ඒගොල්ලෝ suggest කරනවා. So basically that is the responsibility of audit pro. So along with these three people, right? This is very important. Everyone in an organization has accountability for its management. All of you in your company is having some sort of accountability regarding the risk management. Right? Accountability regarding the risk management. That means you are having a kind of responsibility regarding this. So when it comes to risk responsibility, simply we can say the risk responsibility is with all the employees of the organization. But these three people are having kind of a specific roles regarding the enterprise risk management. Right. So now, from this point onwards, we are going to build up the enterprise risk management framework. Right. So when it comes to companies, right, they need to show the enterprise risk management framework in their annual report. Right. So to make a කැමති විදිහට කරන්න බෑ. එක company එකක් කරනවා තමන්ට කැමති විදිහට, තව company එකක් කරනවා තමන්ට කැමති විදිහට release. So there is a specific frameworks to do this. Right. So there are mainly three frameworks. One is COSO framework, right, for the enterprise risk management. Right. The other one is ISO 31000 framework, right? ISO 31000 framework. So based on these two frameworks, right, you can build your own enterprise risk management framework. Right. I will show you how the companies are reporting this enterprise risk management, right, after discussing this, right? So I'm moving on to the COSO framework, right? So we already learned about the COSO framework content, but the online session for the operational risk management, right? But when it comes to this one, right? Right. When it comes to this COSO framework, it's a COSO ERM framework. Right. අපි අද කතා කරේ COSO framework operation. So this is COSO ERM framework. Two different aspects. Right. So when you are looking at this, so this is the framework of COSO ERM. Right. Right. In the first point, we can see in a company. Right. Before starting a company, let's say you are going to start a company. So before starting a company, what do you need to have? Cash and other things are there, things are there. Now you are going to start an operation. But you need to have some sort of vision. And the vision and objectives. Objective means short-term goal. I will increase my profitability by 20%. I will go to the 100,000 profitability, like objective. And vision is kind of a goal than the objective. And vision, what do you mean by vision? So what is sometimes vision means what? Vision. Sri Lanka have a vision to go as a fund of Asia. That's the vision of Sri Lanka. That doesn't Asia පුදුම කරන එක තමයි ලංකාවේ තියෙන vision. දැන් නම් පුදුම කරලා දුන්නා. Right? That is a Sri Lankan vision. So when it comes to the forecast, right, what is their vision? What is their vision? Four pillars in a car. ඒගොල්ලෝගේ vision එක තමයි ලෝකේ ඉන්න හැමෝම ෆෝඩ් කාර් එකක් drive කරනවා. That is their vision. Right. The vision එක දිහා බලනොත් ඔයගොල්ලෝ තේරෙනවා යා vision එක දිහා බලනොත් පොඩක් achieve කරන්න අමාරුයි. හැබැයි achieve කරන්නත් බැරි නෑ. ඕක හැමෝටම ෆෝඩ් කාර් එකක් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඉවන්න ගන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි achieve කරන්න අමාරුයි. පොදුනේ ඇසරව. අපි යාගත්තද උඩ ලෙවල් ඩිස්ටර්බ් කරනවා දැන් මට කියපේ අහන්නද right හරි ඒ වගේ right ඒතර විෂන් එක අපි තියනවා විෂන් එක හැබැයි achieve කරන්න බැරි නෑ හැබැයි achieve කරන්න අමාරුයි that is the vision ඔයගොල්ලන්ට විෂන් එකක් තියෙන්න පුළුවන් කවදාද දවසේ ලංකාවේ කම්පැනි එක ඩිරෙක්ටර් බෝඩ් එකට achieve කරන්න බැරි නෑ හැබැයි අමාරුයි there are 14,000 SMEs in Sri Lanka 14,000 so every SME company is having a director board. And also there are 286 PSC companies in Sri Lanka. ඔගොල්ලෝ වයසට ඇති සමහරට ඒකට 1000ක් විතර වෙනවා. So දැන් ඉන්න directors ලා සදාකාලික ඉන්නේ replacement එක කරනවා. You are the replacement. Thinking that way. So if you are following that dream, you can go there. දැන් මෙතනයි රයිට්මක් කෙනෙක් ඉන්න ඕනේ නෑ නේද? කියන්නේ රුපියල් ලක්ෂ දෙකක් පඩි ගන්න මෙතන බෑරම කෙනෙක් ඉන්න ඕනේ. අවුරුදු තව 20 කින් හරි 20 වගේ අවුරුදු 50ක් ඉති. සාමාන්‍ය ස්ටේබල් වෙන විදිහට ප්ලෑන් එකක් කරනවා. ඩිරෙක්ටර් කෙනෙක්. හරි. You can be a director. Or CEO. That should be goal. සමහරකට වෙන goals නැහැ. The general right, okay, management field again someone. So okay to start a business as well, become entrepreneur and become a CEO in a short period of time because if you are starting your own business, you can be a CEO in your company. Right. So first of all, we need to have a vision. Core values, or we can say the objectives regarding your company. That is the first point we need to have. So based on that vision, right, we need to develop a strategy. We need to develop strategies. Right. Then our vision එක build කරගත්තා. our vision එක මොකක්ද? කවදාද දවසක direct එක. එතකොට මේ vision එකට යන්න කොහොමද උන්? You need to have some strategies. So you need to make your experience, right? Experience at the front. To feel like a direct anything. You need to follow with your qualifications. You need to become a chartered accountant or lawyer or any other sort of profession you need to have. Right? So that strategies you need to develop. So likewise, when it comes to companies, also let's say Ford company. So their mission is to provide cars for all the people in the world, right? That is their vision. For that, they are building up the strategies. Based on the vision, they are building up strategies. How they are going to go to that visions and mission. Strategy development. Right. So based on the strategies, you need to develop business objectives or formulate business objectives. Objectives in what? Kind of short term, which help to go to the vision or mission. Objective again short term. අපි ගත්තොත් මේ අවුරුද්දේ අපි ලාභය වැඩි කරගන්න. CLV. මේ අවුරුද්දේ අපි ලක්ෂ 2ක ලාභයක් ගන්නවා. මිලියන 2ක ලාභයක්. That is our objective. So based on the strategies we have developed, so we need to formulate business objectives to go to that strategies. Right. So now we are having a nicely developed strategies, and for that we are having the business objectives. So then we are going to implement it, and we are going to perform. For example, so my vision is to, let's say, my vision is to provide some sort of a product. Let's say, when it comes to the washing powders, right? Previously, we are having a sunlight soap. That sunlight category money. Thus then it convert into the powder, right? Powder, right? Then now it's converted into the liquid. So newest trend is what? There's a no more liquid powder, so no more such kind of a thing. Only the nanotechnology. Right? Nanotechnology. Through the nanotechnology, all the clothes are washed. Pale nanotechnology. Now, cars or the AC, medical so the nanotechnology. AC is nanotechnology. Like so, if we are building up a let's say new product, right, to go to that vision, right? Through that we are supposed to get this much of profit. So now we are going to implement it, right? So we are going to perform it if it is service. So then through that what we are expecting, we are expecting to enhance value of the company. That is our expectation. Creating value. So through the ERM framework, what is our final objective? Create some value to the stakeholder. So basically the shareholder. So when you come to the company, what is the company's main objective? You are starting a company. What is your main objective as a company? More than profit? Deliberate more. Profit is yes? Yes, correct. Increase shareholder value or wealth. What do you mean by wealth? What wealth is? More than the profit. Right? Wealth is more than the profit. Wealth is retained for kind of a long period of time. Right? So as a company, our objective is to what? Enhance the shareholders' wealth or increase the shareholders' wealth. That is our objective. The Lanka developed again. So developed countries are $1 ready. $3,000 America $1 billion. අපිට 3000 යම්මනේ ඒගොල්ලන්ට මෙච්චරක් තමයි. ඒකට දෙයක් ඒගොල්ලෝ develop කරන්නේ. So likewise, what we have to do, we need to enhance the value of the company. So when you are enhancing the value of the company, that means you are enhancing the value of for the wealth of the share for the stakeholder. So that is the objective of the company. Company run කරන්න මෙන්න මේ කියන objectives achieve කරන්න. Company එක කරන්නේ මේක. vision එකක් තියෙනවා අපිට. ඒ vision එකට යන්න අපි strategies හදනවා. ඒ strategies achieve කරන්න අපි business objectives හදනවා. ඒ business objectives අපි implement කරලා company එකේ value එක වැඩි කරනවා. That is what we do as a company. As a company. Right? So this is what the company is. So then, what do you mean by the risk management? ER. So there are some part in the bottom, right? Governance and culture, strategies and objective settings, performance, review and revision, information, communication and reporting. What that means? So when you are going to do this business, this is a business basically. Make a business section. So we need to look at the risk. So we need to look at the risk management part. When you are going for that, the first point is we need to look at the governance and culture of the company. Polymer risk management process එක හදන්න කලින් අපි බලන්න ඕනේ company එකේ තියෙන governance structure එක කොහොමද? Company එකේ තියෙන culture එක මොකක්ද? risk culture එකක්ද තියෙන්නේ? Right. risk එක ගැන දන්නේ නැද්ද? Right. මොන වගේ governance structure එකක්ද තියෙන්නේ? කොහොමද ඒගොල්ලෝගේ සංවිධාන විභාගය organization structure කොහොමද? Like you need to look at. Right. So that is the first part. When you are going to build the risk management process to the company. So now we are going to build an ERM framework. That is the first step. Then strategies and objective settings. So based on your culture, organization goals, right, organization vision, right, and strategies, you need to build some strategies for the risk management. මොන වගේ risk වාට එන්නේ risk development part එකේ objective setting part එකේ. right. ඒවට කොහොමද අපි address කරන්නේ? මොන වගේ risk තියෙන්නේ? ඒව කොහොමද අපි manage කරන්නේ? Strategies build කරන්නේ, objectives build කරන්නේ. Then we have to perform. Right? Basically, we need to build the risk response. Risk response. So even though we are building the risk response, right? Sometimes suddenly the risk can be changed. දැන් අපි අද ඉන්න කරා මේක තමයි risk. හරි බය වෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ. අපේ ගෙදර හොරු පයින් තමයි risk. right මම CCTV හයි කරා. දැන් හොරු පයින් කියලා මම හිතා. What will happen? Suddenly දැන් අලුතින් ඉන්න හොරු කෙලිම වෙන විදිහට එන්නේ. right invisible විදිහට එන්න පුළුවන්. හරි. වෙලා හොරු පයින්. මොකද මම ඒකට අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරගන්නේ නැහැ risk එක change කරලා. risk එක change කරලා. ඒ නිසා කම්පැනිස් වල ගත්තොත් එහෙම අද තියෙන risk එක හෙට තියෙනවා. environment එක හරියට මුන්න change කරනවා. හරි. globalization එක. දැන් COVID-19 එක කියලා අපි කවුරුත් හිතුවේ. ඒතරටලා මාසයක් ඉඳලා ඉන්නේ කියලා හිතුවේ නේද? ඒ risk එක අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරලා නැත්නම් ඒ කම්පැනි ඉවරයි. කම්පැනි survive වෙන්න. So when you are performing it, even though we are performing, that means we are having the risk management policies or risk management activities, right? We have to review. We have to review. අපි review කරනවා. review කළා risk එක වෙනස් කරනවා නම් අපෝ revisions කරනවා. right? We have revisions. We have to do the revision. And the final part, all of these things we need to inform. That means we need to aware the people. අපි වෙන්න මේ වගේ risk management policy එකක් හදලා තියෙනවා කියලා හැමෝම aware කරනවා. නැත්නම් වැඩන්නේ උදාහරණයක් විදිහට වාගේ company එකේ තියෙන purchasing process එකක්, policy එකක්. එතන කියන policy එක තියෙන්නේ purchase කරන්න. Let's say tender procedure. Right. So there's a tender procedure like this. When you are having a kind of a engagement, so you need to get some quotation from the suppliers. Pre-quotation from the suppliers, and out of that you have to select one. Right. That's the procedure. So if that procedure is not informed to the employees, what will happen? Even though the procedure is there, people are not following it. Right. So you have to inform. That's one part of the right. So you need to inform and communicate, and also you need to report. Right. We call it as risk reporting. We will discuss that. Right. You need to report. Internally you can report, as well as externally you can report in the annual report. Right. So that is how we are going to build the ERM. Right. So all of these things are there. Right. So when it comes to the risk at an entity level in a company, so basically we are having few risks. Financial risk. What do you mean by financial risk? In the entity level, I'm discussing about the entity level, right? Company level. Right? Financial risk. What do you mean by that? Financial means we don't have money, right, to run the business. Basically, right? We are having a financial risk. There's a going concern issue. Bankruptcy will be there. That's a financial risk. Operational risk. Supply chain disruptions can be happening. Right? To make the finished good, we need to have that material. But suddenly, import restrictions have been done by the government. So now I can't get the raw material. So supply chain disruptions, operational risk. Right? And compliance risk. Compliance risk. Suddenly, the government increased the tax rate. Right? Right? Suddenly, the government is increasing tax rate. For example, SME companies, the previous tax rate is what? 14%. Now, you have to pay 30%. There's a compliance risk. Some SME companies actually they have stopped their business, like hydromen. Right? They have stopped their business. because of this tax, the compliance. Yeah. Right. Then the customer list. Customer list what? So customer preferences are changing. Right. Right. So if the customers are not coming to your business, what will happen? Continue your business. For example, අපි SAP campus එකේ UGC එක regulations regulation එක ගාලා SAP campus එකේ degree අපි පිළිගන්නේ. ඕගොල්ලෝ ඕගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ SAP එකේ ඉන්නේ. So it will enroll the compliance list and the customer list both. In the entity level, in the company's business level, right? You are having these four risks. Right? Four risks. Financial risk, operational risk, compliance risk, and the customer risk. Right. Right. So next important thing is, right? So after identifying the risk, right? So let's say I'm having a risk related to the competition, right? So after identifying this risk, you need to suggest the risk response, because stakeholders are looking at the annual report. Then they are looking at whether they have identified this risk, and they are looking at the next part, how they are going to manage. What is the risk response, right? So when you are writing a risk response, or when you are analyzing the risk response, there's a framework to follow. We call it as TARA framework, right? TARA framework. TARA framework. According to TARA framework, right? So we can provide the risk responses in four ways. Okay. One is we can transfer the risk, right? We can transfer the risk. So if you are having a risk, if you are identifying the risk, what you can do? You can transfer that. And good example is what? Transfer the risk. You are having a risk of your life, right? What are your heart attack? Well, luckily, I know. I'm having a risk. So what I can do? I'm almost still get the country, right? Yes, life insurance. Right? I'm transferring my risk, life risk. Car के आपने ना तो आप मेरे insurance. जब मैं कार में नहीं मैं बिजली insurance कर दी. So I'm transferring my risk. Right? So what kind of risk we are transferring? अच्छा हमने transfer करें मोनो के risk. Right? That's a special announcement. So they are going to take a feedback, right? During the yeah. Interviewing and actually in the feedback, right? And then we'll carry feedback and then So what kind of risk you are transferring? One of the risk of transfer, you have life taking and one of the risk of transfer. Transfer करना क्या तो कवर एक गन्ने के दिए हैं अभी ट्रांसफर करानी एक गन्ने कवर के दिए हैं तो कवर कवर के रिस्क क्या गन्ने के दिए मोनो वाके रिस्क आप ये ट्रांसफर करें definitely we are transferring risk if it is the impact is high impact का high ना अभी अनिवार्य ट्राई करो ट्रांसफर गन्ने के ना कपार पार का अपना चापे लारी होते हैं मुगल बट एक बयान करना impact is very high सब क्या मुझे बिजली निकल रहा है सब मेरे के बयान करना impact is high so likewise if there's a risk which is impact is very high we are going to try to transfer it. The next part කවුරුහරි කෙනෙක් සූදානම් වෙන්න ඕනේ ඒ ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆර් කරපු රිස්ක් එක ගන්න. ඇයි ආ රිස්ක් එක ගන්න? ට්‍රාන්ස්ෆර් කරපු රිස්ක් එක ගන්න. Because the likelihood is low. සිද්ධ වෙන්න පුළුවන් probability එක අඩුයි. Impact is high in my perspective, but the likelihood is very low. හැබැයි කඩකට බෑ. මේ combination හොඳ දාලා කඩකට කියන සම්භාවිතව ඉතාමයි. Probability is very low. Probability is very low. Title එක ගිලෙන්න නැහැ. Probability is very low. But the impact is high. So we can transfer the risk like if the risk impact is very high, but likelihood is very low, or the probability of happening is very low. So such kind of risk, we can transfer. We can transfer. We can transfer. Then we are accepting the risk. What kind of risk we accept? Another way to transfer the risk, just when it comes to business. Insurance is one common example. Other than that, how the business are strategically transferring the risk. If you are a business owner, now you are having a risk, the impact is very high, but the likelihood very low. Right? So now you are going to transfer it. How you can do it? What are the strategies you can do it? What are the examples? Common examples. What we can do other than each one. How? Provisions. Yes, what we can do. We can have some amalgamations, right? Right, like Sri Lanka telecom is going to bankrupt, right? So the impact is high, but they have done. They have merged it. Okay, now it's a thing. Right. And also how we can transfer the risk? Any other way? So Pitme is having a kind of a competitive risk from the Uber, right? So what they have done, they need to have some money to attack the Uber. Uber attack කරන්න බෑ Pitme, right? That's survival marketing. Pitme Uber කියන්නේ global company. So what they have done, they have recently done this strategy. They are listed in the Colombo Stock Exchange and they are transferring their risk among the shareholders. They are collecting the money. That is one way of transferring the risk. They are a company. What are risk company bank company? Bank transfer. Yeah, they are not keep them. So risk transfer. So those are the strategies that companies can follow to transfer the risk. Clear? Right. Acceptance. Right. What type of risk we are accepting in our life? One of the risks that are accepted. Risk क्या कोड़ा उलटने आप एक गानो. ये risk के बारे में करूँ. What kind of risk we are accepting? The risk is that in our tolerance level. अपने दरागान अपना level लेके क्या risk? Effects. Mostly, yeah, accepting the risk like impact is high or low. Impact is low, and the likelihood also probability of happening is low, and the impact also low. Right? So such kind of risk only we are accepting if you are a rational person. Full high mode करते हैं ना किसी अनेक risk का mode तार कोई सामान्य rational person කෙනෙක් accept කරන risk එක impact is low and the likelihood or the probability of happening is low. Right. Then reductions or mitigation of this. What kind of risk we are reducing or mitigating? What are the strategies we can reduce or mitigate the risk? Just one is feedback, right? Reducing the risk that they are getting. They will burn or will hit them. And then we'll have to go to the line now. And you can see what are one complaint. Eat a colleague feedback. Risk reduction, mitigation, feedback. One of the strategies. And also, they are following what the subcampus is following our the attendance marking system. So they are checked whether your attendance there, like 80% something like that. Okay. So it's there. So it's a kind of a risk mitigation approach. Right. The companies normally, what kind of things they are doing to mitigate this or reduce this? Yes, correct. Definitely. Internal controls. Right. Internal controls are the one of the best risk mitigation strategy. They are going to the correct finding or window. Correct finding or risk. Apa kata isi bila merah dia no, balik dia no, atau security guard kini no. Bukan tinggi matai kan? Risk kita adu kan? Terus mana lagi risk tapi adu kan try kan? What kind of risk dia going? Mitigate. Impact. So we are going to reduce the risk like the impact is low compared to others. So the likelihood is very high. Probability of happening is very high. Either not horror fine approval, probability is high. Short risk ka 3 pulang. Ini suarkan karan pulang company. Probability is high. But the impact is compared to others will be low. About impact ka aru na make a probability ka equal hamele vene hinda. Right? Ek company to badly impact wenna puluwan. Right? The fraud risk ka මුලින්ම fraud එක කරන්න පොඩ්ඩක්. ඊට පස්සේ තමයි ටික ටික කරන්නේ. උදාහරණයක් කරන fraud එක කරන්නේ. CEO කෙනෙක් කරන post කරනවා. Right. So we have done an audit in a famous visa company. Right. I'm not going to say the name. It's big report that the know. Right. The visa company is CFO, not CEO, CFO. So the visa company got cash flow cash flow. The CFO තමයි check authorize කරන්නේ, payment vouchers check කරන්නේ, invoices ඔක්කොම check කරන්නේ. එයා තමයි authority එක. authority. එයා මොකද කරන්නේ? එයා කරනවා fraud එකක්. අපි හිතමු එයා ගන්නවා company එකේ එළියට ගන්නවා එයා voucher එකක් දාලා. right. voucher එකක් දාලා එයා company එකෙන් ගන්නවා 1 million. Just assume video টা ගන්න තියෙනවා 1 million ගන්න. First step එක. එතන what is double it? What is double it? Cash, credit and debit to let's say expense. He paid all the documents. Right. Cash does not. Then we 1 million on the expense net. Yeah, he may get. So then he knows the material level of the auditors. Now, what audit करने क्या मस्त है? वो audit कर लगे और बंदा है. audit ये ना. तो वो मना नहीं accountant का बना क्या मस्त. मना मल जो ये material level का अभी कुछ तो body में बना नहीं मोड़ दिया. They know the material level of the audit. That is not good. Material level के अंदर material level लिखे. What do you mean by material level? What do you mean by material? Yes, material. Don't know. The level will impact the decision. A level le uda මොන හරි වැරද්දක් වුණොත් දෙක decision එකකට බලපාන. එනවා කියන material level. We call it as material. අපි මොන හරි decision එකක් ගන්න යද්දී ඒ decision එකට බලපාන යම් කිසි ආදයක් තියෙනවා ඒක තමයි material. material ප්‍රමාණයක්. So now that CFO knows the material level. So let's say the material level of quantity is 100,000. 100. May I move the current? I think you want 120 the material level. 120. Basically, you 1 million level. The 100. 100 expenses account for the ලක්ෂ තමයි. But it also check කරන්නේ material level වල දේව විතර මොකද decision making වලට බලපාන්නේ material level එකට උඩ මොකක් හරි code එකක් මොකද නැත්නම් මොකක් හරි වෙනසක් මොකද decision එකක් මොකද ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලෝ බලන්නේ details of one evidence more than 120. They are not looking at other because we are following the what you call sample base according and we are providing a reasonable response. So CFO knows this. In the amount of battery level palne transaction book kar. So no worries, make out win. But it does not win. Now maybe make a step by step. Have that one. What you gonna come? That is one way you can go for. So here, what is the issue? They don't have proper internal control. Right. Proper internal control. So here the impact is very low, but the probability of happening is very high. The likelihood is very high. Right. So the issue is there's no internal control. The same person authorizing, same person, what you call, is overlooking. So sometimes he's preparing. That's why he can do that code. Right. So that is a kind of a issue, internal control issue, because they are not mitigating that risk of fraud. Risk of fraud. Right. Then avoid or terminate. What kind of risk we are not taking? Avoid. We got an risk. Terminate. One of it. Now you is run. Definitely high risk. That means the impact is high and also probability of happening is high. And you are in a cover the risk again. What is it? And you are able to have a rest of Gillinon. You got a money of right? So if the impact is high and the profit is high, so we are going. We are terminating. Right. So examples are when you are going to do a kind of acquisitions. Right. So companies are going to acquire other companies. For example, Dialog has acquired Airtel. Right. Srilanka. And Etisalat or something like that. They are acquiring companies. So when you are going to the acquisition, so normally the acquisition procedures take some time. Like acquisition, may not be among other my unit insurance account, unit insurance value. Later, among get over the regular value, the unit insurance account. Right. John kills what one John kills other, John kills value. So what we can do? We have to do some valuations first. We need to value that company first. So for that, we are having the values. Then it will take some discussions. Sometimes more than 2 to 3 years will be taken to that acquisition procedures. Right. So during that acquisition procedures, there's a big common mistake in the consolidations, like consolidation accounts. Right? Important technical, right? LKS 38 according to the LKS 38, right? Internally generated goodwill. The LKS according to LKS 38, internally generated goodwill, they are not recognized under the individual financial statements. Basically, in the balance sheet. Repeat it again. LKS 38, according to LKS 38, we are not reporting internally generated goodwill. व्यापार तुलिන් හඳුනාගත්ත තීන්දුවක හඳුනාගන්නේ නැහැ individual financial statement according to LKS 38. For example, let's say sunlight. ඔගොල්ලෝ දැන් ඉහිලා අඩේට ගිහින් ඉල්ලන්නේ රෙක්සෝද සමන් කැටයක් දෙන්නේ. ඉල්ලන්නේ sunlight කැටයක්. There's a brand, right? There's a kind of a goodwill for the brand. Right? So that amount is not present to the but in the financial statement. So now I'm going to buy this company. Once I'm going to buy this company's actual value is not there. It has not been represented. सामान्य value का क्या होगा तो company की value का basically कौन सा value है company का basic value क्या होगा company का वटना का क्या होगा net asset value, right? Net asset value. So net asset value के मेरे represented negative ना ठीक है होगा दिला दी मेरी company undervalue नहीं ठीक दामे पहनना नहीं. But when it comes to the SLFRS 3 consolidation statement of financial statements, preparation of consolidation of financial statements, SLFRS 3. According to that, when you are doing the consolidation, right, we need to recognize what? We need to recognize good. So, what happened in the valuation process? The valuers are having some sort of knowledge about the accounting, but most of the valuers they don't have the knowledge of accounting. So what they are doing is they are taking the financials of the company to value, and also they are using some statistical methods. So they are based on what the individual financial statement. In their asset value is low, net asset value is undervalued. Sometimes there is a possibility that valuers will miss that intangible asset because it's not represented in the financial position. Right? So then they have to provide the valuation. Most of the times, the valuation report is undervalued. That is a one common mistake in the valuation. Because of that issue in the what they call the accounting standards, right? Accounting standards. Accounting standards. Accounting standards වල individual financial statement වල internally generated goodwill අඳුරගෙන එපා කියන්නේ. ඒක අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. ඒකේ මම අඳුර ගන්න දුන්නොත් තමයි. يعني ඒගොල්ලෝ කැමතිද වැලියු කරගන්නවා. ඒ කම්පැනි එක ඒකෙන් පුළුවන් අපිට වැරදි විදියට මේකක් වෙන්න අවුට්පුට් එකක් වෙන්න. ඒ තමයි ඉන්ඩිවිජුවල් ඒ වගේ අඳුරගන්න එපා කියන අපි කන්සෝල් කරද්දී මම වැලියු කරන නිසා අඳුර ගන්නවා. කම්පැනි වැලියු කරනවා ගන්න. So the valuation mistake එක වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So the valuation mistake එක වුණාට පස්සේ සමහරව consolidation procedure එකේ ගිහිල්ලා මේ valuation mistake එක නිසා ඔයාගේ company risk එකක් තියෙනවා. ඔයාට අඩු ගාණක් දීලා තමයි ඔය ගන්නවා. ඒක ඔයාලට මොකද කරන්නේ? ඔයාලට පුළුවන් ඒ agreement එක terminate කරන්න. avoid it. Because the risk is high, the profit is high. So those are some examples for avoiding and terminating them. Right? Avoiding and terminating them. Right. So when you are looking at this diagram framework, so this diagram you need to remember when you are going for the examination. It's very easy, right? So as we discussed, you can see impact is low and profit is low. What we are doing? Impact is high and the profit is low. We are transferring, right? And if the impact is low and the probability is high through the internal control, we are reducing. And probability is high and impact is high. Yeah. So this is what we call it as right. So when you are looking at the risk response, right, firstly we need to identify what are the risks I am having. Right? Then we need to develop the risk response. To develop the risk response, we need to follow the TARA frame. Then next big question is what? How we are calculating the impact? How we are calculating the likelihood? Right? Now, impact take a high, probability take a low. How do I get? Impact take a high, so in fact, we can have some mathematical value. Right? If it is happened, this much of loss I have. Mathematical length. In fact, they give you a then in the middle, we have lost there. Make a tighten income below them, which are allowed. In fact, I have no which that campus which are allowed. So there we can measure the impact, but measure the probability. How we can probability of happening for the likelihood. How we can measure? Like I told them, Lotaraya can then be the probability. Lottery is here. Kita dia mengenai lottery itu, lottery itu lottery sama dengan Lanka hatarat itu lottery ya karet hatarat ini. Dekat lottery Inggris, aku itu ada lottery sama dengan ini ada property. Ya kau itu. So according to statistical method, Inumara sama dengan harga pandang kita nak ikat jadi. Inumara. Tahu saya kerana ada fungsi ada apa jadi mana harga itu orang dunia kena ke mana. Kamu dah air rata kerja kat mana jadi. NLD kena dengan produk itu nanti mana ikat benar. Tunar pas semua jadi ekor lagi lagi double benar. Padahal ada melanggar di lottery itu 40 itu ada orang pasnya lottery sale lagi ada bilang di no dia fungsi 40 atau lagi nanti nih kalau atar pas punya dah boleh di like that. So when it's on probability, so I'm coming to this one, right? Likelihood. There also in the lottery, you get the probability kan, probability kan tamai, not based on the probability kan tamai. Right? Hari itu probability analyze kalau cuma orang darah kan tu, mana dinum baru dah terus, apa itu mereka ada, harga fancy dinum baru tamai, mereka ada nol probability. So एक काल में कौन नहीं वहाँ पूरा तरह टिकट कर, तो जानते हैं statistical make करना, पालना नोटरा ये भी इलाका गाना में नमे दिन उबार हाल गाना के हाँ statistical जमा कर, अपने statistical गाना तो मैं हार दास में रेंज के नमे अनिवार्य तरीके नोटरा ये दे, तो रेंज के पुलान तरह लंका के दिन नोटरा ही करना, और probability गाड़ी किला, so likewise when it comes to the probability of risk, right? The probability of risk occurring, right? We need to follow some statistical methods. Right? So these probability are be decided by some variables. Right? So there are some statistical methods which we are not going to learn here. Right? Statistical, but it is the likelihood is coming up with the statistical outcomes. Exam එක මම දුන්නොත් risk එක ඔයගොල්ලන්ට case study එකක් දීලා සාමාන්‍ය basically වෙන්නේ case study එකක් දෙනවා. Case study එක දීලා ඔයගොල්ලෝ අඳුර ගන්න ඕනේ මොනවද risk මේ case study එක. ඒ risk එක address කරනවා risk response එක. So risk response එක address කරලා RFM එක use කරනවා. දැන් අපි හිතමු risk එකක් තියෙනවා company එකට 200,000 loss වෙනවා. company එක 1 million වගේ profit එකක් තියෙන company එක. ඒතකොට ඔයාලා analyze කරන්න පුළුවන් impact එක. impact එක high ද low ද? Right. Based on the values. But when it's a probability, how we can analyze? So it's a judgment for you. Actually, there's a statistical method, but here what you have to do is you need to judge whether this is a low probability thing or high probability. Based on that, you need to decide the risk response. Okay? Yes? Right. For the analyze the probability, there is a statistical method, but we are not going to learn here. What you have to do is, from your knowledge you have gathered as a judgment, you can make that decision. Right? All right. Any questions up to now? Yes, any questions? Any concerns? Any clarifications? Nothing? See is good. So after next week, I'm actually, I need to mention this. I have already opened the, what do you call it, notebook. So your deadline is 29th, right? 29th of August. 11:59 p.m. Right. Is it okay? Any concerns about that? No? Design? No? Nothing? Okay, no concerns. Are you ready? No. Are you ready? Now, subject what the plan group. So, empathy. Then 29 means September 6th. And then okay. Girls are okay with the 29. They are okay with 29. 29 is okay. They are okay. 29 now that is basic. You are okay, right? No issues. Right. So 29. So I have to mention some sort of information regarding the presentations. Right. 29. The deadline is 11:59 p.m. Right. So one person of your assignment group need to submit the report and the presentation both as sheetfold. Right. That's no problem. Presentation also pen drive or in the topic plug run and don't info. I will leave 3 months because I will consider it as a late submission. So then I will allocate some time, right, for the each group. So you can come on that time and you can do the presentation. That's how it's done. Right. And also I have already uploaded a sample report on the presentation. Right. The LMS. So what you can do is you can review the documents, right? So accordingly you have to prepare your slide. And also, as I mentioned in the first day, I think, don't select same company at 2 groups. Some company groups they are selected and there are 286 companies, PLC companies. And also when you are preparing the report, don't use ChatGPT. You can use the ChatGPT. You can just look at the ChatGPT things and you can write your own words. Right? That's about the sign. So 29th, 11:59 p.m. is the deadline, right? All right. So, yes, any questions? Any answers? No? Nothing? So let's have a look. So wait there, you are having kind of feedback.
Yeah, good morning all. We came to take lecturer evaluation. So I hope that you are already familiar with how it will be taken. So we will display the QR code for you. So you have to put feedback for all subjects except taxation. And for the tax, you have already filled in the form. So apart from that subject, for other subjects you have to fill. So we will display the QR. Thank you.
Thank you also.
So after this, you take a break. The first one is the speed location. Second, usually operate to the package. अपडेट उपकरण वाला क्लिक करना है as well as the print out right? One document will be good. Documents will be good.
Yes, we do.
But you will make a product. Paragraph 15. Yes, sir. Pilot project because of pilot check. Pilot test क्या एक वगैरह का कोटा pilot test में बनो वही इंटरव्यू वही लेकर एक वगैरह ने ऐसे कोटा डिस्कस कर क्या है वो क्या इधर कोटा pilot test medical हमारी रिपोर्ट कर ले रिपोर्ट कर लेके भी ये ना गैप पे अपॉइंट कर रहा हूँ तो लेके बाइक करना या देश को है ना दिल्ली से लोग नहीं लंबी करो कर लीजिए पूरा करो डेटाबेस ट्रांसलेट करते हो तो चला तो हां फिर ये तो Deadline extend करना है शुरू तो starting है मदद ईमेल
අම්මේ එළියට දාලා වහන්නම් ටිකක් එතකොට ඉවරයිනේ. ඌ තෙමෙන්නේ නැති තැනක ඉඳි ඌ බවෙක් නෙමෙයිනේ.
conceptual conceptual but concept indicator. Indicate करना मैं concept में बोल रही हूँ ये क्या है मैंने भी concept है जब पर ने fitness में का इनमें concept है एक indicator एक concept पे base करके तो अभी indicator model हमें अभी ही जरूरी है तो practical model का लगा नहीं ऐसा कम इंटरव्यू कर ला तो आइडिया का आप दोनों model वह बालों एक model को दिए थी concept में एक indicator एक तो लिस्ट कर तो लेसी और concept indicator model तो हमारा तो आर्गुमेंट किया नहीं कम एक रहता है एक हम किए होते हैं तब मिलता है एक और मिला तो हमारा पॉलिसी कोड की मतलब फाइनेंशियल कंट्रोल होते हैं तो पहले से अधूरे के
මම හොයාගන්න මැසේජ් එකක් දැම්මා. කවුද කියලා.
और ये होटल के सर निकलता है तो देखो बस क्रेडिबिलिटी टेक होगा पास पॉलिटिक्स से ये स्पेशली
ඇයි?
experience que no probar con usted. Bueno, me las cambiará. Parte que feedback experience que la experience. Pero hay el poder de coding. දෙතල පොයින්ට් එකක් කියන්නේ කොහොමද? ඒක කොහොමද සයිඩ් එක තියෙනවා. Proses yang risk management performance risk management performance sama kira-kira itu beda gitu. Itu ada एक common code that we can go. There's a connection between the risk management and finance. And they have a core speaker. Common attributes speaker. They will be. They are like coding. Code करने के लिए तो वो summarize. Summarize coding. ये तो मैंने code भी कैसे align कर दूँगा. ताकि ये ना hypothesis. That's the concept. तो मैं बोल रही हूँ कि मन की ताकि टीम पूरा हमारे टीम ने क्वेश्चन का फिल करना इतने वेरी कुछ नहीं होता लेवल ऑफ अवेयरनेस से लेवल ऑफ अवेयरनेस से क्या ना रेगुलर पता कर तीन मोनो के कोर्स मेरे टीम में पता कर तीन में लेवल ऑफ अवेयरनेस मीटिंग देखा भी कुछ बोला मैं पता करते हैं तो मैं टीम सबको मैं बोला मैं टीम में टीम में मैं टीम रेडी कर सकता टीम में वर्क करके भी मैं इसे कभी करते हैं example. Develop level of awareness. Email level of awareness. Email level of awareness. टीम में लेवल पर है एक अगर मीडियम की एक ऑलरेडी जो कर लेती है तो ये रहता है टीम में इस वजह से एक आता है ठीक है सर्टिफाई करा लेवल पर है सेकंड ईएलपी पूरा होता है अब मैं अगर आई वुड लाइक टू से दैट मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम वी डोंट गेट द एक्सपेक्टेड रिटर्न ऑन या ये वाचने की फीलिंग काम हां एक ही रिटर्न हो वो तो डेटा एनालिसिस है ඒතකොට NPO වලින් කරන්නේ වාට පිළිවෙල ටීම් එක අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක වගේ අලොකේට් වෙන දෙන්න පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ ටීම් එකට පැමිණි කරලා වගේ ටීම්ස් ටික අයිඩෙන්ටිෆයි කරනවා. කොටස් ටික ඔයා මේ ඉස්සරහට සම්බන්ධ කරගන්න. Initial code filter කරනවා කීවල කරනවා ඒක උනද ජැජි ඉස්සරහම ජැජි විදිහට ජැජි දානවා අපේ කෝඩ්ස් එකේ ඒක අප්ලෝඩ් කරනවා අප්ලෝඩ් කරලා කෝඩ්ස් විතර දෙන්න කී කරන්නේ ඒක බලන්න රියලිස්ටික් මේ කෝඩ්ස් ටික අරගෙන දාන්න ඉන්නේ ඊපස්සේ ඒක ටීම් පිටර ඒ ටීම්ස් ටික මතකව තාවින් සෙට් එකක් කරනවා ඒ ටීම් සර්ටිෆයි කරන විදිහට ඔයා ගන්න ඕනේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ කියලා තියෙන පොරවස පොයින්ට් එක. මෙන්න මේ ටේබල් එක. අකට වෙනම ටේබල්ස් පහක් තියෙනවා. මේ වගේ ටේබල්ස් පහක් තියෙනවා. ටේබල්ස් හරි කොහොමද මේක මේ විදිහට තමයි යන්නේ. team එක තියෙනවා ඒකට line වල තියෙන එක තියෙනවා ඊට පස්සේ ඒක certify කරන්න මොකක්ද කියලා කියනවා documentation දැන් සමහරවිට මේ paragraph විදිහට නම් පුළුවන් paragraph විදිහට නම් පුළුවන් ලස්සන paragraph clear ඒක තමයි certify කරන්න මේක තමයි කියන්නේ clear මෙයා මොකද්ද කියලා තියෙන පොත් එක ඊට පස්සේ ඒක ඉන්ටර්නෙට් ඒක වල paragraph විදිහට තියෙනවා ඒක clear කරලා බලන්න කියලා මට pero paragraph dibuat juga sama teknik paragraph ini itu aja Itu kita lihat gitu. Porque itu kan lagi jadi. Baik, saya publish kan. Terus saya mau ya tapi ya kita tahu ini nomor berapa jadi debat sendiri dari posisi itu posisi itu ada di foto mana di semua betul itu sebagai tips pada tips yang tips data analysis pada the discussion on these you are starting your very first level yeah kita lah bagi kan dia saya pada kinitek dari kemarin tahu tentang beli ya sakit bukan itu dia itu dapat boleh kan bisa ini kan Aku sesuatu lihat lagi. Lagi penting. Ini kalau kemana depan data karakter kan tadi aku punya. පහට වෙනවා පහ ක්ලියර්. ඉස්තක වෙනවා 30. කෝස් ටික දාගෙන ඉන්න ප්‍රශ්න කෝස් ටික අරගෙන පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්න. කාසිට දාන්න යටි දාලා කෝස් ටික ඉන්න. අරවත් කියවල බලන්න. just come on just in. හරි. හරි.
Enterprise referable as the principal, right? So this is not ended up in a certain period, right? It will continue over time, right? So now we have enterprise referable, right? Now we also have discuss, also then take also take challenges for the more, right? So now enterprise referable for share, they are not right? So in our business, they face new challenges all the time. So this is an ongoing process, right? We can't stop at a certain time, right? It's ongoing. So variable, feeding include, right? Implementation, category include, right? ERS could be integrated into the business for fast response to unexpected risk, right? So this ERS you will be embedded into the one business processes. So then only you can address if there is unexpected risk coming out, right? And also delaying ERS as an annual project is not ideal due to the needs of decision making, right? So ERS, you think like it's a kind of a thing we have to review annually, right? So if you are waiting as an annual project, so sometimes your company will not survive, right? So this is an ongoing process. Available are what you are seeing into. And enterprise principal available. Abhi risk area balagani because certainly unexpected risk can become. Right? In different organizations, there are different kind of risk. Right? Like COVID-19 now, like unexpected risk. So manufacturing companies too. They go to business and career and value. Right? Audit for they will audit career and value. There are so many systems coming out. So you need to look at those things over there. Come. For example, Margot Google company Google company. So there's a company called Google company Lanka BSC. It's a BSC company. Google company Lanka BSC. I know that. क्या मगर देखो नहीं तो क्या ट्रांजैक्शन कर दो हाँ बोल रहा है वाह क्या सब की क्या होता है so based on this Google effect and the BSC right have you heard about Google something क्या हमें कुछ चीजों निकाली दी गई पता माइनिंग इंडस्ट्री जब Google effect and the BSC के कंपनी सिक्योरिटी एक Google एक अंदर में कंपनी का मेजॉरिटी होती है राइट लोगों को अंदर बोल रहे हैं राइट हम जो अंदर था एक उनकी कंपनी का टीम राइट ये वाटे में नहीं कंपनी की गमक टीम ये लोग ये कंपनी है बीएससी कंपनी करें और ये रीजन को Right. So because this is kind of a return to Sri Lanka, right? So this company is generating kind of a big revenue, right? In year 2000, so there is a kind of a interest coming from the German company to buy this Google company money, right? But according to the rules and regulations of Sri Lanka, you can't sell. So in that period, the vice president we are having that period, right? So he decided to get some strategical move, right? And we go to that. Is a more than that goes in a shama country is company के shama country is So once these have been listed in the Colombo section, once they have issued the shares, all the shares have been purchased by the German company. 99% of shares have been purchased by the German company. See what we have? Immediately, the ownership is sold to German company. So when it comes to this mining, it's a mining, right? Basically, they are mining what? Graphite. One of the graphite can current of graphite can be either of the one. And so, how many German company investment? Consulting, Pennsylvania, byproduct. Byproduct is I can get enough Pennsylvania. So when it comes to Sri Lankan graphite, it is very famous worldwide because it has 99% of carbon. The best graphite in the world. So normally we are using graphite to make some kind of a brake pads for the European vehicles. All the European vehicles are having the brake pads which has been made by Sri Lankan graphites. So what happened here is they are extracting the graphite. They are mining, right? So actually in 2019, when I was there, they have did this, I think 1.5 kilometers. Underground. And other only kilometer equals of Bahakila Hagali. ඒකේ සාමාන්‍ය මෙතනින් නම් සාමාන්‍ය වෝල්ටේජ් එක වගේ එකක් දාලා තියෙනවා. හරිද? ඒතකොට මේකේ තියෙන වැදගත් කොටස මේ ග්‍රැෆයිට්ස් ගොඩක් වටිනවා. ඒවල හදන්නේ ටෝන් එකේ කියුබ්ස් විදියට. ටෝන් එකේ කියුබ්ස් විදියට හදලා තමයි ඉක්වන්නේ. එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කරනවා. ඒතකොට මේකට බෙනිෆිට්ස් දෙකක් එනවා. එකක් තමයි එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කරන නිසා මේකට එනවා ටැක්ස් බෙනිෆිට්. දැන් මේක ටැක්ස් බෙනිෆිට්. ඒ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් මේක මම ඇසියුම් කරලා වඩා තේරෙන්නේ කියන්නේ මේ එක ටොන් එක කියුබ් එක හරි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපි වැලියු කරලා රුපියල් ලක්ෂයක් විතර එක්ස්පෝර්ට් කරන රුපියල් ලක්ෂයක්. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒක විකුණන්නේ ජර්මන් කම්පැනි එකේ විකුණන්නේ ඊට වඩා 10 ගුණයක් 20 ගුණයක් වගේ වැඩි වෙනවා. So what they are doing is they are doing kind of a small adjustment. They are doing ये मत दिया तो कोई पदार्थ वाली वाला तो मैं कराची जर्मन आएगी ये वो कर रहा है इनको एक पास 5 मिनट वाली डालने की कोशिश as Sri Lanka they are losing what two things tax income as well as the revenue huge revenue so they are reporting a kind of a low level of profit and because they are exporting the low value so then the tax revenue will lose and also the revenue which we can generate. Right? So this is a kind of a huge loss to Sri Lanka. The German government will not set this. Right? So once I have there for I think 3 months. Right? Okay, I told her that I told her I cycle and go. So since the one or more than वो साइकिल है तो क्या कौन वो कोई लोग की होती है ऐसा बंद होती है कल कोई अब सिंपल बना था तो भाई गाला निकल के नहीं ठीक है लोग थे तो फिर वो गाला वो लोग एक ना ऐसे ना जो मेरे काम होते हैं क्या करें सब साइकिल हो गया तो और एक अगर तो भाई when I was there in 2019 right? So I asked from that German engineer, right? German engineers are there, they are working there, mining engineers. But what I assume because on the way, I don't know, so मैं किधर है तेरे काम में? मैं कागज़ तो किधर है? तो क्या मैं कागज़ तो किधर है? मैं कोई यार आज तो लोग मैं पैसे से बताऊँ सर. तो मैं लोगों के एस्टीमेट पे करता हूँ एक आउटपुट किया कल में एस्टीमेट है. अगर ये तो अदर मोमेंट के तो अदर को क्यों ना आउटपुट दिए करके तीन हो. So while they have find out graphites, the surface graphite. They don't go to deep. The surface, they have find out the graphite. It's highly profitable. And I told you that we are running a phosphate surface is a phosphate active. So this is a kind of a big pressure to Sri Lanka. So actually, when it comes to risk management of this company, it's very difficult to manage the risk because there are so many risks coming up, political risks here, and also the workers. So they are having the biggest risk from the workers. Right? So in this company, the one issue they are faced is they are actually digging underground, right? So around this mountain, the people are the villagers are there. Right? I go to the get to market and all. Right? Because this one get right? This may current the net. Right? So that is the biggest risk they have faced in that period. So what they have done? They have developed this village. Right? All the roads, they have made carpet, right? They have given the jobs to the villages. Right? That is how they are responding to that risk. एक आले मम एक आले जरा स्थान लगी सामान्य तलवी के एयरपोर्ट एरोल करने आपले तो पहला वाइट कर सामान्य के एयरपोर्ट के साथ भी उनका असूला अरूला सामान्य एक आले राइट जरा स्थान में बहुत सारे इसको भी डाला सारे 5 लोगों को मिलकर In the individual, they are. They are working, right? Of the salary account. So, good salary. Then also they are providing all 3 meals, all related. They are going to handle to government. So that is how they are responding to this. That is the biggest risk they have faced. So they have managed that risk to a certain level. So such kind of a different situation you can face in different organizations. When it comes to insurance companies, what is the biggest risk they have faced? There is not life insurance. They have underwriting risk. What do you mean by underwriting risk? Underwriting risk. For example, let's say, Ramai Kishan, video of the invoice, there is a level, some bias, life insurance got that was the premium got given. Premium got given, we have paid to be. How can you design that premium? So basically, when it comes to insurance company, right, there is a person called underwriting. Right? So once you have sent the proposal, right, you have sent the proposal to the insurance company, there is a person called underwriter who is reviewing this proposal and deciding the premium. When you are deciding the premium, you are not the income. Class amount. You are not the premium. They don't premium. They are not happy. Or not happy. Have you got it? What are you? Asli basically. Right. They don't. Obviously, someone premium. Obviously, my premium should be high. Right. So that has been decided by the underwriter. Right. So let's say I'm not providing that information. Right. I'm misleading that information. Right. Right. Underwriter ID information that they are moving. You get the right. So when it comes to the insurance company, if the premium is not correct, it's a kind of underwriting risk. Right. Most of the insurance companies are underwriting risk. Right. And for the banks, what are the risks they are mainly looking at? So they are having some sort of compliance risk, non-performing loans. Right. The loans are not performing. Right. And when it comes to plantation companies like Deepati, what are the main risks they are in? The Deepati plantation companies, they are mainly doing what? Exports. Right. Yeah. Our main export is to India, the Iran, obviously, and the USA. Right. So when the war is going on, we can do export. And also when the rupee value is depreciating, what will happen? Rupee value is depreciating, what will happen? Our income will be lower. And rupee value will depreciate over. We cannot keep the rupee value to tell the other. Calling dollar value will depend, we will receive another. Then funky. So any other living and economic government university on a year. And then not doing. Also, rupee value is depreciated, the dollar value is low. Right? So it will reduce our income. That is one of the major issues that Ilma is facing. Right? And nowadays the LOC holding is facing a big issue. Like going concern issue. LOC only. And even though their life insurance segment is performing well. Right? But their holding company, the PLC company, is having an issue. Right? Going concern issue. What is the reason for this? They are having the interest, they are basically based on the markets. And your Nayamantama, you are trying to make it. When Nayamanti buying, Nayamanti buying companies. So the rupee value depreciation and depreciation only. So their revenue is low, but they have to pay more USDs. Right? So there's a kind of a going concern issue, big issue. Even though software life is performing well, but software quality PLC, that means the mother companies having some sort of going concern issue because of that. Just like Srilanka. Same as Srilanka. So we have to pay so much of money back USD. Once the rupee value is depreciating, we have to pay more. Okay, so Kalina USD million 40 rupee depreciated, as well as like so. What I want to highlight is when it comes to the different organizations, right? When you are working in a different organization, the different organization has different kind of risk. So therefore, analyzing the risk is very important, right? In that company's perspective, right? So I will show you one example from JKH. Right. So here is the JKH annual report 2022-23 annual report, right? So you can see. So this is the enterprise risk management document. They are publishing their annual report, right? So you can see they are mentioning what they have done, right? And they have mentioned about the risk management process as well, right? You can see we are identifying the risk, identification of risk, right? Assessing the risk rating we have discussed under the management process, if you can remember, right? And then we are mitigating the risk, what we can do, and we are reporting the risk, what we are doing, and monitoring the. Right? This is the risk management process which we have discussed. And also, they are having a risk matrix, or we call it as risk heat map. Right? Here you can see the impact they have categorized into 5 levels. Right? Extreme, very high, high, minor, insignificant. And the likelihood they have categorized into 5 main categories. Right? So based on that, they have rated the risk. If the score is 1 to 10, it's insignificant risk. Then low risk, medium, high, ultra high. Based on that, they are making a kind of rating. Right? So then they are identifying what are the risks they are having. These are future risks. Right? Then it's not anything risk. They will identify them. Right? Then they rate the risk. This risk is a medium risk. Right? And they are providing the risk response. What we are going to do, right? To reduce or manage this risk. Right? 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 So when you are doing the assignment, what you have to do is, right? You need to analyze this annual report, right? And find out the risks, right? What they have highlighted or any other risk you have find out, right? And you need to look at these risk responses, right? So these risk responses definitely categorized under the TARA framework based on the risk rating, right? So you can suggest new risk responses if you can, right? Or if you can evaluate these responses whether this is enough to address this risk rating. So those things you have to do in yourself. It has recommendations as new strategies or new risk responses. Right? Clear? Right? When you are looking at this, let's say lots of business due to factories closed down. Right? They get a factory. Factories so they have identified the risk. Factories value a risk of manage. So that risk is a medium level risk. So this is the next response. The company closely monitor the green leaf intake to the factories, right? And the catalogs quantities. So this is basically related to the plantation, right? Ensure proper background checks are carried out before when taking on new businesses, right? So likewise, they have built some risk responses. So as an investor also, I'm looking at this risk and the response. Right? I'm analyzing whether this response is enough to address this risk. That is how we are designing the investment decisions. Right? One analyze risk identify करना देना. One में risk response के adequate enough the risk के cover. So एक बात इन्हें दोनों decision लेकर. Based on that, I'll take the decision. Right. Right. So you can see every risk they have categorized. So here they have highlighted that fraud and corruption risk is very low level of risk. What that mean? They go look at the highlight करना investor. They go people का कुछ होता है क्या investor that आगे funds secure हो जाती है 5 minutes के अंदर हमें investor fraud corruption है to the report, right? It's low. Any fraud and corruption within the business will be resulting in loss of revenue, right? So what we are going to do if something happens, even though the risk rating is low, we carefully monitor and review, post-peak analyze in collaboration with group business process review. They are having a group business process. There's a constant management supervision and internal audit conducted to oversee and investigate any fraud deviations to the internal control system, right? Strict disciplinary actions is taken towards any fraud identified. Right. So that is why I told you this enterprise risk management is the framework is very important to review. People look at this and make decisions. More than profits. Profit they borrow from making this balance. Right. Investors balance, rational investors balance. මොනවගේ risk ද මේගොල්ලෝ identify කරලා තියෙන්නේ. එකක් තමයි මේගොල්ලෝ බලනවා මේගොල්ලෝ හැම risk එකම identify කරලා තියෙනවා. හරියට. ඒ risk එක identify කරලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ risk එකේ level එක මොකක්ද? හරියට ඒ level එක identify කරලා තියෙනවා. මේගොල්ලෝ කියනවා මේ risk එක low level risk එකක්. හැබැයි ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ගන්න විදිහට JPH එකේ පොරකම් වෙනවා. example එකක්. හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ identify කරලා තියෙන්නේ low level. ඒක වගේ enterprise risk report එක හරියට. So I use කරන්නේ That's a risk response. Well, one point, maybe manage the risk response. So based on that, you are making your decision. Right? Based on that, you are making your decision. So that is why this enterprise risk management is very important. Right? Right. They have highlighted all the risks related to the company. Right. Correct. Right. So any questions? Yes, any questions? Yeah. So before going to my questions, any questions? Go ahead. Yes. No? Right. So there's a one classroom discussion, right? Right. So this is one of the examination question. Right. The previous examination question, it has been tested in the enterprise risk management part. Right. So one big challenge when it comes to this paper is It's very difficult to understand the question. So what I'm asking is, right, Mama Ahante somebody you got no paper, America. You can put on. That's the rate of the strategic level we has been, you know, architect science. First thing is it's very difficult to understand. So understanding actually is very important, right? So when we are looking at the first question, advise the CFO the three key benefits and three key drawbacks of introducing enterprise risk management to the income payment, right? So basically, in this case study, what happened is there's a no enterprise risk management process or the policy in this company. So now the management is going to implement this, right? And they are going to provide some resources as well, like they are going to appoint a kind of a risk officer as well. So that is the sort of case that is here, right? So before that, the board of directors wants to know, right? Is it okay to adopt this CRA? So they are asking from you, what are the benefits and the drawbacks of CRA, right? So when you are answering to this question, right? You are listening, you must clearly understand. Passing how was it? Very events very yes. Asking about the benefits and the drawbacks. So there you go. So when it comes to the ERM, is it good or bad to have income? Good. So then, if you highlight the drawbacks, what will happen? So what should be your suggestion? Because we need to advise the CEO. So when you are advising, what are the advice from the board meeting like what advice කරන්න කිව්වා ඒ පැත්තේ එක්ස්පර්ට් කෙනෙක්. ඒතර ඔයා කියනවා කරත් හොඳයි නොකරත් හොඳයි. එහෙම කියන්නේ So you need to have clear cut decision. මේ හේතු නිසා කරන්න වෙනවා. මේ හේතු නිසා ඒක කරන්න. කියලා මොකද ඔයාලා ඇඩ්වයිස් කරන්නේ ඔයා කවුරු කෙනෙක් කරලා ඔයා කියනවා මම මේක කරොත් හොඳයි. කරත් එකයි නැත්නම් එකයි. දෙපැත්තම වෙනවා. So මේ question එක අහන්න පුළුවන්. වාක් කරන්න ඕනේ ඇඩ්වයිස් කරන්න ඕනේ ERM framework එක ඇත්තටම ඇඩප්ට් කරන්න හොඳයිද නරකයිද? ඒතර වයින් මොනවද drawbacks මොනවද benefits? ඒතර ඔයාලා උත්තර ලියන්න ඕනේ. positive පැත්ත ලියන්න ඕනේ. හරි. ERM framework එක ඇඩප්ට් කරන පැත්ත තමයි ලියන්න ඕනේ. දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉන්ටර්වියු එකකට ගියනකොට one common question asking from you is what is your weakness? So, what do I mean weakness? So, I weakness or answer weakness like you on many different levels. Right? So, we are interviewing in the level. Now, what do I weakness like that? Now, what are a weakness like a company? Okay, benefit that. While you know, my weakness to the one for a better to proceed. Okay, you are not to the million. Right? Without my weakness. The company also does that. The weakness is kind of benefits to it. So, likewise, when you answer to this question, even though you are writing the drawbacks, you are writing in a positive way. You need to write it in a positive way. Right? So that is the expectation. Benefits of zero drawbacks. So you need to first decide whether the ERM is good or bad. Then you have to write in that way. If it is a negative way, if it is a positive way. මම එක ඩ්‍රොබැක් එකක් කියලා මම මොනවද ඒක එළදිව කරන්න දෙන්නම්. එක ඩ්‍රොබැක් එකක් තමයි මේගොල්ලෝගේ ඉන්නවා ඩිරෙක්ටර් බෝඩ් එක. right? So they are direct about here. The professor risk manager who would report to the audit committee, right? So they are going to appoint a risk manager, right? That risk manager is going to report to the audit committee. But when it's on this audit committee, comprised entirely of non-executive directors, mostly from outside the industry. Right? Audit committee non-executive directors තමයි ඉන්නේ හැබැයි ඒගොල්ලෝ ඔක්කොම outside the industry. Industry එකෙන් පිට. So now what will happen? The risk officer is providing the risk relating to the industry, right? That risk management policy has been reviewed by who? The non-executive directors who don't have any knowledge about the industry, right? Right. So therefore, what is there? Is it knowledge gap? There's a knowledge gap. So it's a kind of a drawback when you are implementing the CRM. Right? So you can write as a drawback. Right? There's a knowledge gap in this company. Right? When you are going to implement the CRM, right? One of the drawback is there's a knowledge gap between the risk officer and the reviewers. So the audit committee. Right? It's a drawback. Right? But do that, if you are clear of that knowledge gap, it is beneficial to the knowledge. So you can suggest to have some sort of non-executive directors from the industry to the audit committee. That is the drawback. So next drawback you can write, when you are implementing a ERM, it's very costly, right? Because this company is going to implement this at the initial point. Right? So if you are doing some sort of thing at the initial point, it's very difficult to do. Very costly. Right? So what we can do, just as a drawback, it's very costly, but we need to analyze the cost benefit analysis and check whether the benefit is higher than the cost. Right? Right? So if you suggest as a CFO, this process is costly, that is a drawback. But what you have to do is you need to analyze the cost benefit analysis and check whether the benefit is higher than that. And when it comes to the benefits, we have discussed the awareness culture. We can promote the awareness culture. We can take the proactive actions against this. We can do the risk identification part in a better way. Right? We can provide the reasonable assurance to the stakeholders. So likewise, in a positive way, you will write answer. Right? You will write answer. Right? So when it comes to the second one, considering this company operates in the food industry, what specific type of risk might ERM help them identify and mitigate? So as I told you before, we have discussed different types of industries, like mining industry, insurance industry, like manufacturing industry. So when it comes to different industries, we have different sort of risk. So I'm asking, since this company is working in a food industry, what kind of specific risk they are facing related to the food industry? Just what are the risks? Food industry risk specifically to the food industry. Yes. Some is green. Hotel is green. Specifically to food industry, other than risk, financial risk, other than that, what are the specific risks? Food industry. Yes. Quality, yes, quality. We can say safety risk is there, right? Safety risk is there. Safety risk is there. Normally, right? Then, here is specific risk. yes, safety is in the circle. Sometimes the compliance, sometimes you need to maintain some sort of compliance is there. They are maybe control, right? They quality maintain and compliance is there. Right? So you comply with some rules and regulations related to industry. Right? So likewise, some specific risk area based on different industries. So you have to identify this. Right? Sometimes this time in your examination, I'm asking from a mining industry. What kind of risk the mining industry is having? What kind of risk the insurance company is having? Insurance companies is basically like the underwriting risk, claim risk, like similar sort of risk. And when there is some manufacturing risk, they have the supply chain disruptions mainly. Right? Likewise. Right? So then you need to suggest what are the things we can do to mitigate or like risk responses. What are the risk responses? So identify this. So in the final part, beyond the audit company oversight, how can ERM be effectively integrated into the company culture? So after you are implementing ERM in your company, right? Yes, the audit company is oversight. Audit company is ERM oversight. Ini apa tu orang itu orang tu? Mereka hari itu culture kita, embed kan atau hari itu productive dia orang itu. What we can do. Yes, one is you can accountable. You can make accountable regarding the risk, right? Employees can make accountable regarding the risk. And also, what we can do, we can train. You can train the employees. You can provide some awareness programs, right? So likewise, we can suggest some sort of strategies to implement the ERM in the culture. So the exam paper is very structured question. Exam paper is very structured question. The example answer of the other paper questions have table, right? Questions mark here, marks for each. So 3 questions coming from the corporate governance, and 1 question is coming from the ethics, right? And 2 questions is coming from the risk management. Right? So 1 question is coming from the ERM, other question is coming from the operational risk, right? And studying is both. What can we got yeah. So I'm going to case study question again. Case study question questions to ask you. Like really reason for other attempt. So I'm going to five is being a right? See? Right. So the same type of question will be there in the examination. Same type of same question, same type of question. So what we are doing is we need to answer this question. I will make a Dropbox to upload your answer. Once you have uploaded the answers, then I will upload my answer. Right. Any questions? Yes. Nice. Any questions? Sorry. Yes. No questions. I'm happy to answer if you have any questions. So, running class also back to answer. That's the way level. Any questions? No? So this subject is a very important subject, right? It's a kind of practical subject even though it's boring, right? So you have to learn, right? You have to best way to learn this subject is analyze the annual reports. So then you can learn this subject, what kind of risk management policy they are, what kind of corporate governance they are, how they are coming about ethics. Most things you can learn through the annual reports. Right? Alright, so if you don't have any questions, so let's find out the system for today. Yeah. So thank you very much. Have a good day. But let's meet on next week. Sometimes next week will be online session, right? I'll just go. Thank you. Have a good day. Yeah, for the online people, any questions? No? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, here.
Yeah, any questions? So your room assignment deadline would be 29, okay?
Okay, sir.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Give us. Give us number. Don't let negative.